here today because we're going to talk about building a team, and we're going to do that with this gentleman right here. Mr. Jerimiah Taylor, are you on the line?
I'm here, Bob. Good morning.
Good morning. I have to thank Jerimiah. This guy, so first off, let me just introduce Jerimiah to you guys, and this is his street cred, right? This is the reason that you're willing to sit here and listen to this guy today. And maybe we should start with the fourth one down there. Is Jerimiah owns a team. It's a Keller Williams team in Tucson, Arizona. Jerimiah, correct me if I'm wrong, but your team is a 7th level team. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And for the people that don't know what the 7th level means, that means if you went to Tucson today, you'd hear our radio commercials. You would see the signs in the ground with my face on them. You'd go to the website. You'd call in, and they'd say, it's a great day at the Jerimiah Taylor team. And yet I haven't been on a listing appointment in 3 years, and we'll sell over 100 homes this year.
So it's like he said, at the end, we'll come back and talk about the 7th level. But essentially that means that at this point with his team, Jerimiah is able to step away and do and pursue other things for his professional life. And what Jerimiah has chosen to do as that other thing is he's become a team lead at the most productive office in all of San Diego, California. In the last 12 months, that office has sold almost 2,000 homes for nearly $1 billion in sales. So Jerimiah knows a thing or two about how to build a team because he's done that, and now he's off to helping other people build teams, and that's what we're going to be here today talking about. Is he's going to share with us some of the things that he's learned about what it takes to build a team. So that's why you're going to spend the next 60 minutes with us. That's why you signed up and jumped in here to begin with, is we told you, hey, we're going to have a guy here who's done this, and he's going to share some of the insights that he's learned over the last, 5-6 years in building up this. Is that about how long it's been, Jerimiah? I mean, because it hasn't been that long in terms of the scope of, I think a lot of people think, oh, these things take forever. I mean, you were able to do this in a pretty efficient manner. Is that right?
Yeah, I got my real estate license in 2004, and from 2004 to 2010, I consistently sold 27 to 25 homes a year, and it didn't matter if I worked 10 hours a week or 110 hours a week. That was my ceiling of achievement. And in 2010 is when I learned about the team concept, and I started building my team. And since 2010, the worst year we've had was 85 sales. So there's something to this team thing.
So you I guess kind of took a traditional path in terms of, you didn't just jump right in and go, I got to do this team. I mean, you really learned the business. You spent, sounds like 4 or 5 years where it was just you, right? I mean, you were, like you said, you were either working 10 hours or you were working 100 hours, and you seemed to be getting the same results. So what was it, or why did you decide, like, I got to go this other route? I'm going to build a team for my business.
There's only really one reason to build a team, and that's because you want to sell more houses. When you sell more houses, you make more money, and it really becomes a time issue. And so when I started thinking about building a team, the reason that I could never sell more than 27 or 30 houses is because I get 4 or 5 deals under contract, and then my life was nothing more than transaction maintenance. And so what would happen is I would go for like 45, 60 days, I'd close all those transactions, and then I'd freak out because all of a sudden now I'm unemployed, and I'd go find more leads, and then I'd sell 4 or 5 houses, and I would do that over and over, and over the course of 12 months, I couldn't do that more than about 25 or 27 times. And when I first made my first hire, which we're going to talk more about that, they took all the paperwork off my plate. So now suddenly I could put 8 deals into escrow and then go, oh, wow, I still have time to go find 8 more. And that's really the fun, is when you start to build and you see the pending commissions get up into 6 and then 7 figures. It's like, okay, this is cool. This is working.
So one of the things that, so sell more houses, I mean, that's the main reason. You kind of realize, okay, I've hit a ceiling here. Did you just look around the industry? Like, how did you come to the decision that the team structure is for me? Like, I mean, you could have said, oh, I'm going to start a brokerage, or like, as you looked around the image, or as you looked around the industry, what was it that kind of made this team idea just resonate with you?
So in October of 2010, I walked into, I worked at a little independent broker that we had like 60 agents. I walked into the broker's office and I said, hey, Mike, man, I think I'm failing out of real estate. You know, I've sold 20 homes this year. I'm on pace to do the same thing I've done every other year, and I'm working more than I've ever worked, and I got to make more money. Can you help me do it? And he essentially shrugged his shoulders and said, look, if I could do what you're doing, I wouldn't be the manager here. So it caused me to go look for other opportunities. Now, I'd been at the same brokerage, kind of with my head in the ground, doing my work for 8 years when I first started there, or I guess 6 years. And I went out and I talked to coaches and I talked to brokerages, and through the course of my interviews, somebody handed me the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And I read the book and I went, wait a minute, there's like a roadmap for this? And so, like, immediately I just called all my past clients and used some of the scripts that were in the book, and oh my gosh, I had more business than I knew what to do with. So I went back to the book, and the book said, when you have more business than you know what to do with, hire an assistant to do the paperwork. So I did that. And then once I got busier again, I went back to the book, and it says hire a second assistant to help you do marketing so you have a consistent lead flow. So I did that. And then it says, okay, now you got more listings, more leads than you know what to do with. Get somebody to help you sell buyers. So I did that. And it's amazing that there's a process that thousands of agents have successfully followed that we can just follow too, and it works great.
One of the, so ActiveRain's an interesting place because you've got so many different types of agents. We absolutely have folks like you. Like Katrina Benton's one that really rings in my mind because I use her as an example for a lot of my stuff. Like she is, I don't know if she's probably at a 5th or 6th level right now. She's getting really close, I think, to being able to step away from her team as well. But I talk about her, and I always get the responses of people look at, I think a lot of individual agents will look at the agents that have these teams, and they have some real kind of misconceptions about what a team allows you to do. And one of the ones that I always hear is, like, if I build this team, then my clients, right, the ones that I've been fostering over the last 6 years, as it was for you, that my clients aren't going to get as good of customer service as as I'm able to provide them, right? And then some of that may be just the sense that they don't want to give up control of some of the things that they're doing in their business that they think are great customer service. That's a misnomer, though, correct?
Yeah. Look, one of the smartest people I know said to me, I had this conversation going, and it only exists in my head. And most conversations that agents have only really exist in their head. And the conversation was, I had a really good client that he said, wow, you do such a great job. You could be like this other agent. He's like the #1 agent in Tucson. And I said, oh, I would never want that. That's way too complicated. I just want to do enough to where I can make the money that I want to make, work my job, and go home. And my client was nice enough to hand me a book called The Cash Flow Quadrants. And once I begun to understand money and time, it changed the way that I looked at it. But what happens is we make these arguments in our head, and what this person said to me, he said, Jeremiah, if you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. And the truth about customer service is that a lot of times on big teams, the client can feel bounced around. But what you don't hear is that in every single big team, the #1 goal of the team is always great customer service. In what I say to my clients when they say, well, how's this going to work with a team? I say, well, look, if you went to your doctor and you walked in the front door and the doctor was the receptionist answering the phone, then he ran around, he took your blood pressure, and he weighed you, and then he checked you into the room, then he went and paid a couple of bills before he came in and was actually the doctor, well, you'd never go back to that doctor because you wouldn't think he's very professional. Yet that's how most real estate agents run their business. They believe they need to be everything to everyone to be a quote-unquote great agent. The truth is that people hire a great agent because they help them price the home effectively to sell, they make them feel really good, and they help them get what they want. Now, as long as those things all happen, they don't care how many people work for you. And the only time that customer service or communication becomes an issue is when the people that work for you are not as good as you. And so that's why it's important to hire people that are better than you.
So we're going to talk about that in a little bit here. So you've really hammered this, right? We make more money in less time, which leads to the financial freedom to run other businesses. At what point did you start to realize that like this was your aspiration? I mean, was it right when you said you read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent and you realized like there's this other path to my life in real estate if I choose to take it, or did you not realize this was actually a chance for you until you really got into it? Kind of what was your mindset going in from the sense of I want to really be able to build a team that I can walk away from?
Well, and that's, what's interesting is I never had that thought in mind. And even today, 4 or 5 years later, I don't know that I ever really want to fully walk away from it, because what's neat about the models and systems that we use to build businesses, now this could be an insurance brokerage, a mortgage company, a real estate team, whatever it is, it's a business. It runs, it has profits, and you collect the profits and you take them to the bank, and you manage the people so that your time investment yields you a return. And so as I'm a student of this every single day. In fact, I'm stepped out of a class right now up in San Clemente that is 2 days of nothing but learning about how to recruit, select, hire, and really get in business with the right people, because that's the key to having the biggest life possible. Is that think of it like you're spinning plates. You get one spinning enough to where it's whipping off some profit, you can hand that to someone else to keep it spinning and go start the next one.
Okay, so let's talk about how it starts. Like as we've now read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, or wherever you were at in that position or that timeline, saying, okay, I'm going to build a team. Here's how it starts. What are we thinking about?
So there's 3 keys really to your business, and it seems so simple that it's like rudimentary. It starts with leads. Look, if you don't have enough people to sell houses to, then I don't care how big the team is, you're not going to hit your goals. So you have to have a big enough lead generation strategy that you can hit the goals that would even require a team. Second is that you take a lot of listings. The reason that the top teams are listing based is that you're running a business as a real estate agent, and believe it or not, you have a retail store. And the retail store is your city or your state that you do business in. And if you don't have listings, picture walking into a grocery store that has no inventory on the shelf. You'd turn around and you'd walk out, or you would never go back to that store. So if you're a real estate agent without any listings, you're a grocery store with empty shelves right now. The only thing you need to do is go put some inventory on the shelves so that people can come shop in your store. And then finally, the last part is when you get enough inventory on the shelves, you got to hire some stockers and cashiers to help you process that inventory and deliver a great customer service experience to the clients so that you can consistently do more. Now, the key to the leverage is that the right people have the ability, they can explode your business, and a universal truth is that the wrong people will implode it. And so getting in business with the right people from day one is always the key.
So we're going to talk. So we're going to go in now and let's break down each of these. So leads, right? I mean, so the larger the team, the larger the lead generation strategy. I think that kind of makes sense. As you bring on more people, right? You need to have more for them to do, or more leads for them to be able to tackle. Talk to me for a little bit for a second about just getting started. So you guys can see this slide on here, and we'll make the deck available for you guys afterwards to be able to download as a part of the recording, and there'll be a recording that you can come back and watch. But Jeremiah, I mean, maybe at this point in your business, you're doing all these things, right? Because you built up a team that needs this larger lead generation strategy. But maybe think back to getting started. And what were some of the sources of leads that you guys really focused on early as you realized, all right, I need to start building more leads to be able to bring on people for my business?
Yeah, and so I love that you said what you said. because you got to start small and keep it simple. And then what's interesting is now, even at the volume we're at, where we're pacing a little over 100 transactions this year, we still only use about 4 of these strategies. There's definitely only 3 or 4 of them that net us 90+% of our commission income. And so as you start to do these, you want to pick one and really nail the one. And once you nail that one, then add a second one. And the beauty of leverage is that as you continue to grow, well, now it doesn't have to be my job to nail the next one, because I can hire somebody and make that their job to nail that one. But to answer your question, if you look there's a line down the middle of this, and to the left is prospecting activities and to the right are marketing activities. What we always say for new agents or somebody getting into or building a business, you want to stay left of the line, because the prospecting-based activities don't cost money. They cost time. They can cost some money, but most of that is you going out, shaking hands, getting belly to belly, and really talking to the people. Now, the bigger your business gets, the more your time gets limited and the more you have to shift to the right. So newer agents are going to be prospecting-based and marketing-enhanced. The top agents are going to be marketing-based and prospecting-enhanced. So what we look at, look, if I'm a brand new agent, the first place I'm going and the place I'm going to stay until I nail it is my sphere of influence. People that already know me, they like me, and they want to see me succeed. You know, Bob, if you were to join my team today, your first day on the team would be, okay, here's a stack of 100 note cards. I want you to pull out your cell phone and go through one by one and call people that you know want to see you succeed in real estate, and use this script and ask them for business. And after you call them, write each one of their name, phone number, mailing address, and email address on a note card until you finish with all 100. And until you're done with that, you don't do anything else, because there's nothing else that's more important than that.
What you said there was 3 or 4 that you guys are using. What are they?
So we have, I have a listing manager that their job is to prospect expireds, for sale by owners, and then follow up on our internet leads. So we're kind of shifting over to that inside sales associate model that we'll talk more about. We do some radio advertising. Now, our radio is not like the broad Matt Wagner, if your house doesn't sell in 90 days, I'll buy it strategy. Because I don't live in Tucson, yet most of our business, out of our 100 transactions, probably 70 of them will be my past clients or repeats and referrals. People need to know that I'm still involved, so we advertise strategically with me as the voice so that people still hear my voice and hear it. So it's more of a reinforced touch than a lead generation touch. Yet it still generates leads. And then we're really heavy on the internet. So when we get a listing, we blog it on ActiveRain. We have our market leader website where we're pushing the listing content out. We buy leads from market leaders through the paper lead. We buy leads from house values. And then we've got our team of people that are on the phones calling those and following up on all those leads. And then once a year we do a big client appreciation party. So, and that's 90% of our business right there.
So when you, I'm not sure, I remember when we were talking about this, I can't remember if there was a slide on this, but the idea that you mastered the things that you would then, like you talked about getting the plate spinning, I think. So like in terms of like expireds and FSBOs, let's say, is that something that you mastered? Like you could go back today, get back on the phone and start calling those expireds and FSBOs, because I mean, essentially you had to train that person who you brought in to be able to do it effectively, so you would have had to have mastered it. I mean, is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, I mean, so yes and no. I was really good at expireds. I was not great at for sale by owners. I could get appointments with for sale by owners. The challenge I ran into is that it just takes time to get them listed, and I'm not all that patient, so I would go focus on the expireds that I could call them in the morning and list them in the afternoon, and I liked that strategy because of that. Now, here's what I want you guys to hear, because agents think that expireds and for sale by owners are a way to build a great real estate business. I'm going to challenge that. Expireds and for sale by owners are a way to have a really great real estate job. What that means is that if I start calling this morning, I take a listing this afternoon, about 30 or 45 days from now, I'm going to get paid. That's a job. That's not a business. Expireds and for sale by owners, when you do a great job, you sell them and then you put them in your follow-up database and you turn them into repeat and referral clients that will come back and do business with you, your team, or whoever you're referring to in the future. Now you're thinking like a business person, not somebody that just has a job. And unfortunately, I see a lot of guys that have gone to, the prospecting schools, and they're the old school sweat hogs, Mike Ferry guys, and they've sold 1,000 homes to expireds and for sale by owners, and they've never once called them as a past client to talk to them, thank them for their business, and see who they could refer. So those guys have no out of the business. They get to show up every day and work a job, and when they stop working, they stop getting paid.
I'll tell you what, though, Mike Ferry and Sweat Hogs is Floyd Wickman. Those guys are pretty motivational, inspirational. I saw both of those guys last week at a conference for Century 21 that I attended. It's funny you use their names. All right, so you keep kind of angling back to your database. You talked about, a large percentage of your business still coming from your past clients or your sphere. You told me these strategies feed your database, they don't replace it, right? So the things you're doing out there are feeding your database. Talk to me, what do you use as a database? I had one guy, when he signed up for this class, he sent me a couple of questions. He's like, man, I'm doing this. Like, I signed up for the class, like I'm ready to do a team. Here's a couple of questions I had, and one of them was, like, what are you actually using for your database? And then talk about why that's, this concept that these strategies feed your database, they don't replace it.
Yeah, so I'm hesitant to answer that question for this reason.
Okay.
Go ahead. if I say this is what we're using, then people go out and they think that the tool is the solution, and it's not. The solution is that you call them and you talk to them, you build a relationship. There's the top 10 people in my database. I could tell you their kids' names, their kids' birthdays, what they like to do, what they drive, and where they like to vacation, and what their favorite restaurant is without even opening something. And there's probably 2 or 3 times a month when I just send them a text to say, hey, how's life? What can I do to add value to you? So don't overcomplicate the system. Your database is building relationships with people that care about you and that you also care about. So
but what system do you use? Just for my edification.
We use Market Leader's Business Suite system, and it works great for what we do.
Okay. So there you go. Okay, let's. So you guys, leads. I mean, obviously the concept is just you need them, right? This class is not to teach you necessarily how to get them, but all right, let's move on to listings and why that's this kind of second side of the pyramid.
Yeah, and what it is that if you don't have the inventory on the shelf, the buyers don't come to talk to you. And so a lot of newer agents that are building, they work primarily with buyers because the buyers are easy to come by. They just show up. Listings, on the other hand, you got to go hunt for them. They're harder to find. And so when you look at why do you need listings, because if you want a sustainable business, you got to have listings. And also, if I'm sitting on my couch on a Sunday, I can't do that while I'm out showing a buyer, but I can do that, and I can have 100 listings in the MLS, and all the other agents can be showing them to their buyers, and I can be making money sitting on the couch. The other thing that's so important about listings that I don't know that everybody's paying attention to, and this is why I'm so passionate about helping Bob and these guys at ActiveRain, is because right now, when you take a listing, you go out and you put it in the MLS, and you've paid your professional photographer, you've taken your time, and you've spent money to generate that seller lead. A lot of your MLSs are selling your data off to the syndicators, Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, and those guys, and then those guys in turn are selling the leads from your own data right back to you, or worse yet, they're giving them back to your broker, and your broker's monetizing them back off to other agents in your offices. So look, Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com, they have a great service for the consumers. They give them access to the information The challenge is they give them access to the information a lot of times well before they're ready to do anything with it. So as an agent, you've got to follow up for a long period of time to turn those into buyers. What I want you all to pay attention to today is go Google your listings and look at how they show up on Trulia and Zillow and Realtor.com. And if they're showing up with other agents' names back to them, or you send a test inquiry and they're going to your broker and you never see that lead, you need to go fight for that. Those, you can never build a business without leads. And if the ones that should be coming to you anyways that aren't coming to you, you better go get them. And if that means you got to pay these guys or whatever it is to get them back.
So here's just as a side note to that, I know both Trulia and Zillow allow the listing agent to claim their listing. And that Jeremiah said you might have to fight for it because there are some scenarios out there, you guys, where your brokers are actually sending feeds to these guys, and they are potentially the people set up to get the leads that might come off of your listing. So you really need to pay attention to this. Like you said, go Google your listings or go find them, especially on those big 3 portals. I'm not sure about Realtor.com, but again, I know on Trulia and Zillow, you have the chance or the opportunity to get in there and claim your listing. And I always hear the, why should I have to claim my listing? It's my list. Well, somebody, like, they didn't, these Zillows and Trulias and Realtor.coms, contrary to popular belief, they do not go out and just grab your listings. Somebody is allowing those listings to get to them. It's either your MLS, it's your broker, or in some cases it might have even been you, kind of unbeknownst to yourself, but you have a chance to go out and kind of take control of these things, so do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So sign and ad calls,
yeah,
kind of an obvious one, I think, right? But
well, so look, when somebody calls on your sign and they say, hey, what's the price on 123 Street, the answer is not $300,000. The answer is, that's a great property. Everybody's calling on that one. Are you another one of the neighbors? Are you looking to buy? And that's called a level shift, and that takes practice. And you've got to convert those people into buyers and not just let them pass through your fishing net, because every opportunity that you're on the phone with a member of the public or face-to-face with a member of the public is an opportunity for either now business or future business, and both are great because I know I'm going to be doing this a long time.
So and it's funny, I hear you talk about your business in different places and you always know your numbers. And this just is not just related to your listings. I mean, you know your numbers on your leads, you know your numbers on your sphere, you know your numbers everywhere. But as it relates to your listings, why is it important that you're tracking your numbers, or how is this helping you to kind of bring these 3 sides together?
Yeah, and Bob, numbers are the language of business. If you owned a McDonald's franchise that sold $2 cheeseburgers, I bet you would know your food cost, what your employment cost is, what your tax basis are, and exactly how many cheeseburgers a day you sell. And the interesting thing is, it costs almost $1 million to open a McDonald's franchise, and do you know what the average McDonald's franchisee makes? No. $65,000. 65 grand. So they're investing $1 million to make 65,000. Most of us, we went to real estate school for $199. We threw up an $80 real estate sign after we got our mom to list her house, and we made 15 grand. I mean, the ROI in our business is so magnificent compared to any other business with a much lower barrier to entry. So if you pay attention to your numbers, just like any other business would, you can have a great business. So what I put here in terms of these numbers is, look, so our team goal is 100 closed sales a year. And we know for every listing that we market the right way, we'll sell a buyer, and that's just a given. So we focus on listings. So if I need to sell 50 listings to hit my goal, that means that I need about 70% of the listings that I put in the MLS, they will actually sell. So that means I need to take 65 listings for 50 of them to sell. And that's either the seller will change their mind before they sell, they'll be a little overpriced, and they won't actually go under contract, or the market shifts, whatever it is. I just know our number is 70%. Now, then I look at my average days on market. Right now it's 75. Well, if you take 365 divided by 75 is 4.6 something something, but we can't turn a house 0.6. So it means that if I have a listing and it takes 75 days to sell, I could theoretically list and sell a house 4 times in 1 year. So what that tells us is that, and I think you need to go to the next slide, Bob.
No.
No?
That. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, so the final number is going to be, if there's 65 listings, we divide that by 4. It sounds like about 16 and a half, so we're going to call it 17 listings. That I need to have 17 listings that are unsold on the MLS being marketed at all times to sell 100 homes a year. And so we drill the metric down to something that's as simple as possible. So if I know I need to have 17 listings at all times, we literally have a whiteboard in the office that has 17 slots on it. Every time we take a listing, we write the address in there, and then every time we sell a house, we wipe it off. And what we know is it's an immediate visual indicator that if that board's not full, we're not hitting our goals.
Do you, so many questions on how do you pay your people? We'll get to that, you guys. Do you shift your resources, or do you shift your focus when the board only has 10 on it?
Absolutely. If it's the 3rd week of the month and we're off on our listing goals, everybody's on the phone finding sellers. Nothing else matters because it's a team, right? Mm-hmm. If you're a basketball team and you're down by 6 points, the defensive guy doesn't just play defense. He tries to score too. It's the same way on a real estate team. And even my executive assistant will be on the phone calling people if he has to.
All right, let's talk a little bit about leverage. So, and this starts to get into the hiring process, right? So essentially you're the guy out there, you can sell 20 listings, and then you get to this, where you can sell 20 properties in a year, and then you get to this point where you realize, all right, I need some leverage around me. The first one is your admin. You told me your admin leverage is key before anything else. Talk to me for a minute about your admin, and then maybe share a little bit about just what you're looking for in that person, or how you went about finding that person.
Yeah, so as a real estate agent, there's 196 things that you have to do, from hanging lock boxes to doing your books to finding sellers to whatever it is. Out of those 196, there's only 5 that you really need to do. And if I were you, I'd write these down. You need to lead generate. You need to follow up on the leads you generate. You need to negotiate the contracts to get them sold. You need to go on appointments, and you need to role play and practice what you're going to say before you actually have to say it. Those are the only 5 things that you need to do. And when your business gets big enough, you can even hire people to do those, except now you're going to lead generate for talent for your team, follow up with the leads you generate, negotiate employment contracts, go on recruiting appointments, and role play and practice interview dialogues. So even at the highest level, those are the 5 things you need to be doing. So in terms of finding admin talent, talent is an ongoing search in a business owner's world. I love going through trusted, strategic alliances. So like mortgage, title, escrow, home warranty, home inspector, anyone in my database. I want people that are employed, that are high performers in their job, that I can recruit away to a better opportunity. That's the best way to find talented people. Now the challenge is that sometimes you need somebody now, and you have to use applicants instead of going out and searching for talented people that have jobs. So we use a site called ZipRecruiter. It's like $100 a month, and we just have ongoing ads in there for buyer's agents, inside salespeople, whatever we need. The challenge with those is that those are people that are actively looking for something. So you have to have a really thorough screening process in order to be able to qualify those candidates to make sure that they're people you actually want to talk to. And I'm going to give you my magic question. And so here's how I start every single conversation. And sometimes they end real quick with this one. As I say, Bob, I'm just so excited to talk to you about this opportunity. And it's an opportunity, it's not a job. So I'm so excited to talk to you about this opportunity. And before we dig in too deep, my favorite question to ask, and I want you to answer right now, is tell me about 2 or 3 things that have happened in your life that have just been massive achievements that you're really, really proud of. And then I just shut up and wait. And you're going to hear one of two very different responses. Number one is going to be, wow, only 2 or 3? There's at least 100. Well, I mean, in high school I was captain of the football team, and then after that I graduated magna cum laude, and then after that I was teller of the year at Wells Fargo. Then after that and they're just going to go through, and you're going to see this track record and trajectory of success. And then the alternative is going to, the other side of that, and that's talent, by the way. Non-talent answers that question like this. Well, I woke up this morning. I made it to work without getting in a car accident, and it's going to be completely juxtaposed. And if they're the second, I'm literally going to go, you know, Bob, that's so great, and I'm really excited for you, and I wish you the best. I've got some other calls I need to run to, so I will be circling back up with you if my needs change, and I appreciate your time. And literally, the phone call is less than 5 minutes because I only have a certain amount of time, and I'm not spending my time with not talented people.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Give me, so when have you always had the same admin person? Have you changed admin people when you realized the person you may have hired wasn't the right hire? Or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm the poster child for failing forward. You know, as you look at this, what you have to recognize is that most administrative people, if they're really good, will be in their role for 3 to 5 years. Now, if they're really, really good, the reason they'll leave the role is because you created a bigger opportunity for them and they hired their own replacement and trained them. And if you're doing it right, that's what it looks like. You know, the reason that if you hire people and they're not great, that's okay. Get them off the bus quick and replace them and find somebody that is great. We say hire slow, fire fast. If you get somebody and they are great and you lose them, it's because their world didn't fit inside yours. And what that means is if I want to employ Bob Stewart, my world better be big enough to where Bob can make his millions and millions of dollars working for me. And the minute that Bob sees me as the lid to his success, he's going to be looking for a different opportunity.
I mean, I think that's a big deal as you start looking at hiring agents, right? I mean, I think you get this kind of conception that, oh, if I build a team, I hire an agent, they always kind of get to that point where they want to spread their wings and go out on their own. And you see this a lot, and you're saying one of the reasons is you don't give them enough opportunity or you don't give them a high enough ceiling to make the kind of money they want to make.
Yeah, when somebody leaves your team, that's not their fault. That's your fault. I had a gal that she was one of the most talented people I've ever met. She's on my team, 22 years old. First year with me, she sold 40 homes. And at the end of the first year, I sat her down and I said, wow, this is so awesome. What's the next level for you? She said, well, Jeremiah, I want to make $1 million within 5 years, and I want you to show me how to do it. And to this day, it like stings when I repeat this. I said, well, if that's your goal, you're probably going to have to start your own team, and it's not going to work working for me. Now, what happened is I lost her, and it was like within 60 days that I lost her. And that one conversation told her she was in business with the wrong person. Now, knowing what I know today, I can see the path to how she could make $1 million working for me. And so when you guys get all wrapped up and what do you pay people, the answer is as much as you can. Because the more you pay them, the more they make you. And you've got to hold their results accountable to what you're paying them. And talent takes an opportunity. They're not looking for a job. When the second question out of their mouth is, how much am I going to make? I'd stop the conversation and go find someone else to talk to.
What should the question be as opposed to how much am I going to make?
Talent asks questions like, what's your vision? What's your 1, 3, and 5 year goals? And really the key is if you're building a big business, you've got to learn how to ask the right questions that draw the responses out of people to whether or not you can identify if they're talent.
All right, so this kind of walks through maybe the early stages of building out a team, right? You've got you, which is essentially how you function for 6 years, and then you got to the point where you said, all right, I'm done functioning like this. And your first hire was that assistant or that admin person, correct?
Yep. And so, Now, what I want to be clear about this is not like finite written in stone. This came from a conversation with Dave Jinks, the guy that co-wrote the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. This is the most profitable way to build a team. This is not the fastest way. The fastest way means that you live off of beans and soup and you reinvest every single dollar you make into hiring talented people that are going to grow your organization and doing massive marketing. So you could grow faster than this. Just recognize it eats profitability.
So that's this idea. It's on here somewhere. The sooner you hire sales leverage, the lower your profits go.
Exactly. And so here's the thing that you hear a lot, and I have the same belief system. As a solo agent, I go, well, yeah, I mean, he doesn't do all the work. He's got a bunch of agents working for him, and they're the ones that sell all the houses. Well, good for him, because he's the one making all the money. And so when agents say things like that, it's because they don't understand how to do it, and they don't understand the concepts, and that's okay for them. The people that are on this call, they have a desire to understand how to get more out of their life. Because if I can sell, 100 homes a year and be in Tucson 8 days out of the year, that works for me, and it works really well. And it's because I've created enough opportunity for the people that work for me that it works for them too. So when we look at this 7th level concept, the first level is you're the agent, you do everything. At the 2nd level, someone helps you with your paperwork. At the 3rd level, your paperwork and your marketing. Then at the 4th level is where you start to hand off some buyer work to either a showing assistant or a buyer's agent. The 5th level is where you actually now have somebody that is helping you take listings and put buyers in contract, and you've hired additional administrative support. The 6th level is where you're no longer going on appointments. So the 6th level means that you are managing and running a business. You are the CEO of the team, and it's going to be very, very rare that you actually interface with a client. And what's interesting is that's how most real estate brokerages run, is at the 6th level. The 7th level is where you're the owner and you own the team. You have a manager that manages the team, and they do business without you showing up, and you hold one person accountable, and that's the manager to running the team, and you go do other stuff. And that's how you create passive income.
Okay, because they've been asking. So just at the 2nd level, you're hiring an admin person. You're paying them hourly. Is that right? Or are you giving them a salary? How's that work?
Yeah, so for us, and there's no one right way, right? What I know is for my administrative costs, you want to use the rule, for all your costs, you use the rule of thirds. Your cost of sale, which is what you pay your broker, what you pay your buyer's agents, and what you pay your listing agents should never exceed 30%. And that's gross. So what that means is if you're on a 90-10 with your broker, that you've got 20% of your gross commissions left that you can pay your buyers and your listing agents, and in order for you to be profitable. Because then on the other side of the tree is that on the administrative side, that should never exceed 30% either, and that's going to include office rent, your car, your phone bills, all your marketing and advertising, and all your admin salaries. Because our goal as a team owner is to take 40% to the bottom line, and then when you get to the 7th level, out of that 40%, I'm also paying my manager because now I'm not running it. So in a lot of agents, what they look at is they go, well, why in the heck would I want to work so hard to sell 100 houses a year and only keep 40%? Well, if you're working so hard to sell 40 houses and only keeping 40%, you got something wrong. You got a leverage problem.
Right.
I work eight days a year to sell 100 houses.
Okay, talk to me about the buyer, either buyer or seller. I mean, those kind of probably come in somewhere similar in terms of, like, I think most of the people on the call probably think in terms of percentages. What percentage do I pay my buyer's agent? And you just said like 30% of gross, and I think a lot of people would, at hearing that number, would go, nobody's going to come to work for me for 30%. So talk to me about that that level? Like, what is the conversation to convince somebody that you're more valuable to them at 30% than the broker is at 100% or 90% or whatever?
And I love that you asked that question, Bob, because that's the difference. If you think like a real estate agent, you think, what's my split? And it befuddles me. Over and over and over, I talk to agents, and all they want to talk about is their split.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is when you talk to a normal human being that uses rational thought processes, and look, I'm an agent too, so I'm making fun of myself in this conversation. Normal people talk about what's my income, not what's my split. And split is a scarcity conversation that I just won't get into with people. I get into what's my income opportunities. So here's why I recruit outside of the real estate industry. Because if I go to an agent that's at another brokerage and I say, I want you to come, I'm going to hand you buyer leads, I'm going to set the appointment for you, I'm going to do all the paperwork, all the admin, all the marketing, I'm going to pay all your costs so you have zero skin in the game other than showing up, and you're going to show up to pre-qualified appointments, and you're going to go drive around in your car and sell them houses, and by the way, I'm going to pay you 10% of the total commission. They're going to laugh at me and say no. But if I go to the manager at Best Buy that's got an MBA and is super talented, and I say, hey, I've got an $85,000 a year job opportunity for you, would you be interested? He's going to say yes. He's going to show up and he's going to outwork 90% of the agents that I know, and he's not going to care if he's making 1 or 100% of the income, because at the end of the day, he knows he's making his 85 grand a year, and his life is better than it was at Best Buy.
I love our friend Ben Kinney. I got to travel with him for a lot of time and hear a lot of the stories of him going out and finding talent. I mean, like he hired the Kirby vacuum cleaner guy who came knocking on his door. Like he hired a kid out of a cell phone kiosk at the mall. Like he knew what he was looking for in talent, right? And he was able to identify it wherever he was at.
Yeah. And so the key is that just like I told you, the gal that worked for me the first year, she sold 40 homes. She started off at a 15% commission split and earned her way up to a 40. At 40 homes a year at 40% with no expenses, and she didn't have to work weekends, and she was able, and we did all the admin work. She took home almost $80,000, and she was right out of college. She was really, really excited about that. Now, the key is that I've got to create other opportunities if I want her to continue to do that. So I'll give you an example. With the gal that runs my team, we're talking right now, and I'm going to be helping her buy an investment property that we're going to partner on. So I'll put up the cash, and she'll get a chunk of that, and it'll create passive income. So the fact that she only makes 10% when she takes a listing doesn't matter, because I'm fulfilling her life opportunities outside of her job role.
That's such a big mindset shift, I think, for people to get away from trying to think about hiring people in terms of what I can offer them on a percentage of one house that they sell versus like what can I do for their life.
And that's why I wanted to do this call with you, because it's all about changing your thinking.
All right, so the path to massive leverage, it doesn't necessarily, right? It's not super fast. It doesn't have to be super slow. There is a path to it, right? And you kind of dictate how long you stay in each one of these quadrants along the way. But talk to me for a second about this journey.
This is just I, we, they. And look, if you're going to be a leader of a team, at some point you got to show up and do it. Maybe if you got a really deep pockets, you could write big enough checks to make it happen. Yet people follow leaders because of what leaders do, who they are, and what they stand for, not because they're the mouthpiece. So step one is set and do the standards. You're an agent. You do it. And then you maintain the standards while you teach other people how to do what you do. That's we do it. And then you hold them accountable to your standards, and that's being an owner where others do it.
You mentioned this earlier, the Kiyosaki cash flow quadrants. Why did you want to share this with the folks on the call?
Okay, so look, if you work at Subway as a sandwich artist, which by the way, that was my second job, you're an employee. You show up and you trade your life for money. You have a job, and that's what employees do. They trade their life for money. And so you're putting a value on your life by doing that. When you're self-employed, now you're going to show up and you're still going to trade your life for money. The difference is that you have no supervision and accountability, so you're reliant on you as your own boss. And so that's where most real estate agents start and end their career, as a self-employed person. You know, I do over 600 recruiting appointments a year here in San Diego with agents looking to go to the next level. And over and over and over I hear, Jeremiah, I'm scared to death because when I stop working, my business stops producing income. That means you're in the self-employed category and you don't have a business. The minute that you hire your first assistant and you build a system that leads to you getting revenue whether or not you show up and work that month, you're now a business owner. And you set the standards and you hold people accountable to results that produce income for you. And there's a huge thinking gap between the S and the B, because the drunk monkey, or the limited belief in an agent's head, is that why would another agent want to ever show up and work for me? And the question I would just ask is, why wouldn't they? And you can come up with a long list of reasons, and if you buy into them, that's your list of reasons you get to keep. And if you don't buy into them and you choose to just move forward, you'll find people that want to work for you that are really great. And then finally, once you have a great job or you have a great business and you have extra income, you invest that money and it goes to work for you to return more money. And that's when you move right of that line and you own businesses and invest money. I can go do whatever I want. I can choose to go pick up my 5-year-old daughter in the middle of the day and spend the afternoon at the beach with her because that's what I want to do. And I don't have to worry about who's paying the mortgage at the end of the month, because I have a business that works for me and money that works for me.
So we've got this kind of what is your hourly rate. I'll tell you what, you guys can get this off of the slide deck. So we're going to take this recording, we'll put it into a blog post, we'll give you a chance to be able to download this slide deck. I want to, because there's a ton of questions in here, and there's a lot of them that are kind of particular to your business and just the idea of building a team out. So let's spend the last 7 or 8 minutes here and answer some of these questions. Nicole asks a good one. She says, how do you market your team? So is it with your name and face? Yeah. And then once somebody would maybe see your name and face, like on a listing, for instance, how does that work in terms of them calling in and expecting maybe to want to work with you or talk to you, and then they end up with somebody else?
So that's only a challenge if you make it a challenge. Like if you call me, my assistant is calling you back. The minute that I call you back, I created my own destiny. Now, the only time that doesn't feel good for somebody is if I have a crappy assistant. If I have an assistant that is more talented, he's substantially more personable than I am, and he's more eloquent, and he takes care of people, and he has a genuine desire to do that, and he's so good at it that they don't ever want to talk to me because he's nicer and better than I am. But when you hire people that are not as good as you, which is what most agents that I talk to, they go, how little can I pay somebody? And you're setting yourself up to fail when you do that. I'm going to take, if I want a talented assistant, I'm going to find, my recruiting ads always say when I'm looking for an assistant or somebody in a key position that's going to report directly to me, I don't want to work with anybody that doesn't want to make at least $100,000 a year. Because if they don't want to make at least $100,000 a year, they're not going to be all that motivated. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to always start them by paying them $100,000 a year, but it means I want that caliber of talent. And when you have that caliber of talent, you never get your job back. They take the job and they run with it.
So Fred asked, what is the back-end management system that your agents use to manage their business, and is it and I'll add in, is it the same as your database? Like, are you using that Market Leader, or do you guys have some other kind of system that keeps everything kind of running smoothly?
Yeah, it's so funny because like I'm super techie and like write Java code and all these things, and we still use a paper file system in the office because it's the easiest. The challenge with going to these electronic systems is that unless everybody uses it, it's completely useless. And so we haven't found one system that does it all, right? So Business Suite does a really great job generating internet leads, managing our database, and cultivating those things. We've used Brivity for our listing marketing, and then we use a paper file system for transaction management. And I've heard of all kinds of great ones. I just got tired of chasing shiny objects, and so this is how we're going to do it. And the day that us using paper files limits our further growth and success, we'll look at changing it, but we haven't had that happen yet.
So you guys use, you said Business Builder, which is like the team level product from Market Leader for your database, your internet lead generation, and your basic lead cultivation. You said Brivity, which is a Ben Kinney company. So Brivity is what you use to manage your listings, and pretty cool site, right? It's got all sorts of like, basically the idea is it keeps your sellers up to date on what's going on with their house, and it makes it look like you're doing a whole bunch of work for them. What was the last? Did you mention one other thing there? Brivity.
And then we use Business Suite and Brivity, and the rest is all just paper files. You know, that's how they TCM. Now the team is talking about transitioning over to electronic software, and at this point I couldn't even tell you the address of a single property we have listed, other than maybe one, because it's mine. So if they think that it's beneficial to do that, they own their job. They're going to deal with that. And the only reason I know that we use Brivity and Business Suite is because I asked them before I got on the call. I don't need to know those things. I own the business. I look at the profit and loss. I know the numbers of the business. And I know, are we growing and are we hitting our goals or are we not? And if I need to know what CRM and what database and all that we're using, it means I might have the wrong people.
Interesting. So a bunch of you guys have asked, what book did he say you read earlier? The Millionaire Real Estate Agent by Gary Keller and Dave Jenks, right?
Yeah, Dave Jenks, Jay Popson, and Gary Keller wrote The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And they're in the process of rewriting it. It'll be re-released probably in February of next year. But all that book, everybody thinks it's a Keller Williams book. It's not. It's just a real estate book. And it was written from every year, 4 times a year, Gary does a top agent mastermind where he does a private closed-door mastermind with the top 150 agents in the country, regardless of brand. So there's a bunch of Prudential, C21, Coldwell guys that go to it. And so they took 10 years worth of Gary's notes and turned it into a book, and then went out and interviewed all those top agents and added their thoughts to it. So the book bears no brand. It's just written by Keller.
What Emily asked, you had mentioned earlier a site that you guys keep kind of an ad running on for recruiting. What was that?
ZipRecruiter.com.
ZipRecruiter. Do they feed that? Does that get fed out to some of the other places then? I'm not, okay, so it might show up on a Monster or
it goes to Career Builder, Indeed, Monster, Craigslist. It goes everywhere.
Okay.
That's why I like it, because and then it aggregates all the resumes into one place and has a CRM for managing them.
Okay, so I got Nancy's like, just downloaded Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Awesome. So if you got your Kindle, you can jump on that right now. The rest of your day can be spent really digging into how to build a team in this fashion. Shanna asks, like, so you start with your admin person, and in a perfect world, you would be able to kind of graduate them up, and maybe or maybe not, they become the manager. I know that, like with Ben's business, like he just got really lucky, I think, and found Jolene, and she kind of was that first admin person and has worked her way up to become the manager of his business. But she says, how do you pay your admin at like a level 5 or a level 6, and then as a level 7? I mean, it's kind of a function of your market, like what your business is doing, right? I mean, I guess you said that you cap your admin costs at 30% of your GCI. Is that right?
Yeah. So there's no one right answer, but in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, there's actually a profit sharing plan that is real similar to what we use, and it's just a unit system for how do you profit share with your key people. And look, if somebody's really, really good, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that they're they're maximizing their income. I had created an internet lead generation company that did online marketing for agents, and I gave somebody on my team a piece of the ownership in that as an additional opportunity, and he just had to help me with some of the back-end computer stuff on it. So you never, don't get stuck in dollars and cents. The number one person that has to grow when you build a team is you. Because if you keep making your world bigger and bigger and bigger, I want to find somebody that their goal is to make $100 million a year, because that would really challenge me, because I don't know, I haven't quite yet figured out how to make $100 million a year. But if I want to keep them, that means I need to go figure it out.
All right, so we're 1 minute past. Jeremiah, I appreciate you doing this. Like he said it early in the call, Jeremiah stepped out of a recruit select class, so when this is the 7th time you've taken it, is that right, or the 6th time?
Yeah, and the key to this is be learning based. Always chase mastery, right? The reason I love talking about this subject is because when I talk about it, it makes me think about it at a higher level. I've read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent like 10 times. I've taken a recruit select 7 times. I go to every training that I can possibly go to, and I go hang out with the most talented people I know. Part of the reason I took the job in San Diego is because Chris Heller is my boss. He's one of the top 5 agents on the planet. And so that means whenever I want, I get to call Chris and ask him questions. So, sometimes who you know and what you can glean from them is more important than how much money you make. So what I'll tell you guys is, look, if you have questions, and you're going to have questions, find mentors that are at least 2 or 3 steps ahead of where you want to go, because they'll be able to tell you where the speed bumps are that you're going to run into, and then listen. Because when you don't listen, it just slows you down, and they're usually right.
I think that's such a great piece of advice. I mean, I would always bring up Ben because personally I've gotten to know him. I've gotten to watch his business grow over the last 6 or 7 years. And one of the things that he told me early on was when he was going to figure out something in his business that he wanted to master, he just looked around. He looked around Keller Williams because that's what he was familiar with, but he just looked around and found another agent who was doing exactly what he wanted to be doing. And then he would literally fly to them and spend a couple of days with them just learning that thing. And then he would bring it back and he would put it into play in his business. But he realized the importance of just finding people that have done this before him, because he was not creating a brand new wheel.
Yeah. The widget already exists, you guys. There's agents in this country making $10 million a year in commissions. Go figure out how they did that, and then get creative when you want to make 11.
Okay, Jerimiah Taylor, thank you, sir, for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on, Bob. And if any of you guys have questions, shoot me a Facebook message. I always offer that. There's 200-300 people on these calls, and one person takes me up on it. So feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to help you guys.
All right, so that's Jerimiah Taylor, everybody. My name is Bob Stewart on behalf of Alicia and Carrie, who are always behind the scenes here at ActiveRain University. You guys have an awesome rest of your week and a great weekend in real estate. My name is Bob Stewart. Bye-bye.